Well, now we're joined in studio by Dr. Chandler James, assistant professor at the University of Oregon for political science. First of all, thanks for coming on back.
Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, haven't scared you off just yet with all the TV time. Now, you sat through and watched the address of Congress last night. What was your immediate reaction to watching President Trump's first address?
Well, my immediate reaction to this address as a political scientist is trying to understand what Trump's objective is and how he uses this high-profile venue to pursue this objective. I think that one of the things that a lot of people care about, especially if you don't pay a lot of attention to what's going on in politics, is the seeming acrimony between the two parties, between the president and Democrats. Seems like, wow, things are crazy. And I think a lot of the things that people in positions like I'm in, pundits on TV, when they assess these things, they evaluate it in terms of who's up, who's down, who won, who lost. And it takes away from the substance and the actual issue at hand with respect to what's going on in this speech and what's going on in the country.
Now, you see, we talked about it a little bit before we got started here, that, you know, in this address, you see the direct split down the congressional stairs, where you got the Republicans standing up and cheering when Donald Trump comes in, and throughout the evening, protest sounds from the Democratic side. During former President Biden's address of Congress, it was a flip, just a reverse. Does it feel to the average consumer, the person who's not locked into politics on a day-to-day basis like yourself, does it feel like a little bit of political theater when you watch these sorts of addresses?
Well, it is political theater. Now, the question is, toward what end? And does it actually move the country forward? Political theater is just important in terms of developing people's interest and capturing their imagination. So some of the most important moments in political history have been moments of political theater, right? So we don't want to just categorically say political theater is bad, but the type of political theater and toward what end is what's important. I think that the political theater that we saw last night has many Americans really deeply concerned. The Democrats, people who support the Democrats, are hoping for forceful pushback. And I've saw some criticism about Green's interruption. How does that actually serve the ends of the people who are at the receiving end of some of these Trump changes? On the other hand, many people are concerned with the tone and tenor of the way that Trump spoke. Other people enjoy it, but the question is he actually making good on the promises that he made to his voters, to the American people?
And for the most part, what would you say? How would you answer that question? As he's 43 days into, now I guess 44 days into office, has he come through on those promises? Some yes, some no. What's your assessment?
So here's the thing: the State of the Union address or addresses to Congress are a way for presidents to set their agenda. And the president has this amazing bully pulpit. That's what it's called. You know, this position. A platform to talk to the American people. And so they get to talk about what they believe to be are the central issues facing the American people. He talked about immigration, he talked about tariffs, and he talked about DEI a lot, and DOGE. Okay?
Those are promises he has come through on.
Those are promises that he's addressed. Now, the question is, has the changes that he's made shaped America for the better? What have the tariffs done for the people? Ask that question. What has cutting the jobs of federal government people done for the American people? Has it delivered decreased prices? Has it delivered help on home prices? Has it brought in the flourishing that Trump has talked about? At this point, the answer is clearly no, but it's been such a short time.
43 days.
It's been 43 days. He's done a lot of stuff. Some of this stuff has been put to the courts. But the question is, what are the effects? And so with respect to tariffs, Warren Buffett says something that's really interesting to me that I think is very important about the tariffs. The tariffs are huge. He described it as an act of economic warfare. And he said, the question that you should always be asking is what happens next? China is a huge economic player. It can respond to our tariff threats with responses of their own. They own a lot of our debt. They produce a lot of products that we buy. If prices are increased, That's going to affect American consumers. But what are the trade-offs? What are going to be the effects of these tariffs? We don't know exactly.
Time will tell. We
Time
have
will
years
tell.
to find out
but
these answers.
I think for me, as someone who's standing before the public, is I want to make sure that what matters is thinking about what are the ramifications of the policies,
Sure.
and can we assess the ramifications to the policy themselves.
Now, before I lose you, we've got just a few minutes left. I want to talk about a major news story from about a week ago, a little under a week ago. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky comes to the White House, has quite a contentious meeting with President Donald Trump and Vice President J.D. Vance, among others. He also met with Putin not long ago. What are the results of these meetings? What on an international stage, how are people looking at the U.S. differently than they were just a few weeks ago after these meetings with Putin and Zelensky?
So much is happening. So much is happening. A barrage of content. What happened in the Oval Office between Trump, Zelensky, and Vance is huge news.
Yeah.
It's humongous news. It's a major breach in an American alliance and has really upended NATO, which has traditionally bound together in response to the threat from formerly the Soviet Union and Russia. What that performance in the Oval Office portended was perhaps America moving closer to Russia and away from allies like the United Kingdom, Germany, France, and Ukraine. That's what that's what seems to be the crux of that. However, in Trump's address to Congress, there seems to be maybe a taking back, a moving back of that particular lurch forward.
That tenor.
And try to make amend, to leave some opening for amends with Zelensky. Zelensky has already kind of walked back his role in that.
Actually, I wanted to touch on that as we wrap up here because he has come back, Zelensky has come back, says, hey, I'm willing to look at this minerals deal, talk about peace. So there is a bit of this abrasive negotiator style that Donald Trump has that, yeah, in the short term, we might be able to help speak a little bit more about peace, but you talked about those long-term impacts. I'm sad I can't have you expand on it because we've got to run, but the impacts that will happen to NATO, our view in the world, because we are buddying up with different types of allies than we were in years past. Dr. Chandler James, always a pleasure to have you here this morning. I'm gonna just cancel the whole show next time. We'll just go on it for a few, go for a whole 30 minutes. We'll have you next week. All right?
Yeah.
All right. Thanks for coming around.